Good day, everybody. Hopefully, everyone's fine. I'm wearing my hat again because I did comb my hair, but then I took a nap, so
I didn't comb
it's no longer combed. So
I have to wear a hat because I don't have the texture Marlon has where it
yeah,
just stays in place.
that's right. His is more white, um,
Shut up.
and it's a perfect hat too because we're talking about war. So I picked the fighter's hat, and now we have guns among us. And
Mhm.
good news, people, we have met the criteria to be monetized on YouTube. We just got to
There you
submit
go.
now, and hopefully they will let us. Okay. Coy is dealing with a family emergency with one of his kids. Um, Slight childhood mishap. You know how kids are.
Mhm.
Falls and nicks and bruises, and sounds like it was a little bit more than just a small scratch. So
Yes.
he's out. He's out dealing with that right now. Um, so
Want the best for him, so
yeah, prayers for his family. Hopefully they come out of this one stitched up well. So if you're listening, Coy, next time don't let kids get no. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Watch your kids better.
Yeah, watch your kids better, man. What's wrong with you,
we're
man?
here for you, brother.
Yeah.
All
Mr.
kinds of
Haleman.
kids.
I'm so glad Travis is
All
here.
kinds of
I'm really glad
kids.
Travis is here. We are going to be talking about the Spanish American War of 1898. And the way we're going to break this out is we're going to go in sequences here. We're going to have Bro, then Lee, and then I'll be I guess it'd be closer. I guess that's what you call me. Since, let somebody else talk and all.
Woo, that was a good one right there. Damn Facebookers.
I'm going to let somebody else. Some of these people, bro. Ain't no new money yet. They ain't paid nothing yet. It's still up to YouTube whether they're gonna even let us get the money. Because if they don't like how we're saying stuff, they'll say no. So we've
Yeah.
just met their criteria. We haven't gone against their basic, and I mean basic rules. We have not broken any. We have not picked out copyrighted stuff. We've done what we got to do. So we'll see if they are smart about it and give us the rights to do what we got to do and make a living. So, without further ado, Mr. Bro,
Yes.
breakout the info you got about the so-called Spanish Mexican War. I'm sorry, it ain't a Mexican War, Spanish American War.
Let me put my other brain in.
There you go.
Here we go. So again, from what I read, it was a fairly short war, about 3 months and a couple weeks. It happened because of mainly Spain's colonialism, and there was a big, let's say, revolt with Cuba going against Spain, and America was helping that revolution out, and Spain was just overpowering them. So, America just decided to get involved and help fight off the very powerful Spanish Empire at that time. Uh, you know, it would turn into, an independence. It was pretty much an independence fight per se. America involved. It probably wasn't a lot of independence. And yeah, it was the start, I would say, of America putting their footprint into a lot of countries across the world. Because we had our foot in Cuba, the Philippines, Guam, and I think one other country at that time. So we were pretty much putting ourselves and getting our footprint, helping them fight off this Spanish colonialism. So yeah, if anybody can add to it.
which
Mr.
is which
Lee.
is really which is really interesting because the whole notion of United States, because it just seems like the U.S. was trying to grow their superpower influence globally, and they didn't like anything Spanish because hey, we fought you against Cuba. Oh, wait a minute, you got stuff in the Philippines. all right, we're gonna go ahead and flex our American muscles and see if we can whoop you too. And they kind of sort of did. As far as I'm aware of, from what I've looked into, um, they tried to make Philippines into like more of a territory, but the
Hmm.
Filipinos weren't having it, and so the Filipinos were just like, no, what better? It is us, Filipinos, kind of thing. So it was it was interesting because it seemed as though the Filipinos really enjoyed Spanish life to the point where even today Filipinos have like their native tongue is Tagalog, which is a mixture of their native, and Spanish, and then their names are always going to be like Jose Ratantaka something 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 or rather, and so
Hmm.
it's like this melting pot of just a blend of a culture that's both native Filipino as well as Spanish influences, and they really enjoy that because apparently Spain helped them a lot, but at the same time you have native revolutionaries who wanted to fight against the powers that be at the time, and then the U.S. saw that and became opportunistic. And it's like, we'll help you guys
Hmm.
out, and then that's when the Philippines became a territory of the United States for a little bit, and then
Yeah, and
they
then the
rose
war.
up. Filipinos rolled up, yeah, and then the
Then the war
Filipinos
broke
rose
out.
up in their own revolutionary and saying, no, we don't want American power. Bye bye. So kind of booted the American presence out of there.
Exactly. Now, the other part to this is this: the war started out just after Cuba was going after their independence, um, and that was our in. Is we're helping Cuba fight independence. This is our way because we don't want people being oppressed. We have to have a step in and make sure people are not oppressed anymore. And instead of going to fight the Spanish in Cuba, as Jay was saying, they decided to take their navy all the way to the Philippines to Manila to fight all of these guys over there. They went straight after Spain and surprised them in the Philippines because that was also where they had mass amounts of territory. Um, so when the fight broke out, what people mostly don't know is that the U.S. military at the time, the Marines especially, were comprised of quite a large amount of African Americans. They would not have won the war had it not been for the amount of African Americans that they had. I think the casualties ended up being somewhere in the region of 1,000 men, but about 10 to 15,000 of them came back sick because of um, diseases that they encountered while over in the tropical areas over there. So their numbers weren't really lost, just like in the wars before. They didn't really lose a whole lot of men, but dysentery and
Malaria.
scabies and a bunch of all these weird ailments hit them. And this was where Roosevelt made his rise and eventually became the president, was because of his role as part of the Rough Riders over there in the war. Um, and you're right, bro, it was about a 10-week war. It wasn't very long. Um, and we did manage to get two territories out of it. And I think initially that's probably what we were actually going after, was to try and take power away from the Spanish government. And when we finally got our hands in it, we dug deep. And I think it was in 1899 was when we had that Filipino War, the Filipino American War. Um, what I find weird is that when we did that treaty at the time, the Treaty of Paris that we signed in late December, um, we didn't really want to sign it. But oddly enough, we did it so that Spain would relinquish Cuba and gave the Philippines, Puerto Rico, and Guam to America. So Cuba did manage to get their own deal, but in the process, America got three territories and eventually lost one because of war. Now,
Didn't
I
it
think now
cost millions of dollars
yes,
for America to pay like $20 million
20
to
million,
Spain
20
for Cuba
million,
or something like that?
Mm.
20 million. And
And just that for inflation.
I, so here's a question for you then. With that being the history of that particular war, and then following what was going to come in terms of the Cuban Missile Crisis, somewhere in the region of 60 years later. Um, do you think that we actually went after and had the position we had against Cuba as anger or residual effects from, you know, that war and not gaining control of Cuba? Do you think we look adversarially upon Cuba because they didn't get the territory from them?
Mhm. That's a possibility. And yeah, Cuba, where Cuba is, and the amount of assets you can move through there it plays a big part in war, in trade, in a lot of stuff. So, of course, America wanted that area. They didn't just want it just to want it. There's a reason why they wanted it.
Uh huh.
And a lot of it probably had to do with when you can maneuver and how you can get goods to and from. And when it comes to the military, it could be a hub to where you can place military in and move from one point to another. So I think they were upset that they couldn't gain that ground, and they had to make up another reason to go to
Try and
Cuba.
get it.
Yeah, to try to get it.
Well, my question though would be like Cubans themselves. What was the disposition of the Cubans themselves that would afford them the green light to allow guys like Fidel Castro to rise to power, and then ultimately communism? I mean, obviously we know communists have a slick snake-like tongue and they can convince the masses using colorful wording, but if America is the one that gave Cuba their own independence from Spain, what would motivate people to say, "Oh, look at this independence! Oh, look at this communism! We like that." I don't know why. What would lead people to democratically vote in Castro into
That
power?
didn't happen. So that's the biggest thing. Um, the mass majority of the leadership after they won their independence was by voting, but the way Fidel and ones before him got in was by usurpation. They didn't get in by voting properly. That was not the case, and so they eventually created a state of communism, but they didn't vote for it. Hence, why you see the people that were fleeing as much as they were. They made treaties with America post their independence in an effort to try and gain some things for the people. That never happened because once corruption sets into a place and is taken, you have no real recourse. We couldn't go really go, and this is why America felt free about what 40 years ago, 50 years ago, to try and blame Cuba for a whole bunch of stuff that was taking place on American soils and territories
Mm-hmm.
in order to try and go and invade Cuba. Um, the same thing they did over in Iran, the same thing they do in Iraq, all of it. They have to create the atmosphere that we need to go and do something there in order to get what they want out of it. The
Exactly.
problem they encountered is that by the time we decided to go in, there was no way that the dictatorship was allowing that. And you either conform to us or we'll kick you out. And that's exactly why America got kicked out.
And they tried to go again under, let's talk about what, 40, maybe 50 years ago under Kennedy. They tried to, I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Were they going to plan a false flag attack in America, blame it on Cuba to give them a reason to go into Cuba?
Right.
So they're like I said earlier, there's a reason they want Cuba, and it's not for the hearts and mind. There is an economic reason why they want Cuba or wanted Cuba so bad.
But in the terms of Cuba, well, I was just going to say, in terms of Cuba's location, though, wouldn't that be more of a militaristic, strategic reason, more so than a resource, economic reason?
No, it definitely was resource.
What do
Definitely
they have?
resource. There's nothing strategic. Bauxite, aluminum, cane. They had a bunch of stuff in natural resources that Cuba had at the time that we could have really capitalized on. The Caribbean was rich in resources. Contrary to popular belief, places like Trinidad still stayed under British rule for a long time. They never had a territory belonging to America that was anywhere near Trinidad. It was Guam, the Virgin Islands eventually became that way, and Puerto Rico.
Now, I'm sorry. Now, if you talk about strategic, Jay, Guam would be a strategic territory for America.
Right, because that's more of a Western
military-wise,
right.
yeah.
But then then I guess my curiosity would be Cuba is 90 miles from Florida.
Hmm.
It's the largest island in the Mediterranean in the Caribbean. That itself, from a regional standpoint and from a strategy standpoint, that in and of itself can block off attacks from the south as well as from coming in to the west, from like Africa or Europe or China or
That
whatever.
would I would see that if mainland America wasn't connected to Central America,
Hmm.
because you can
Mm,
easier, as you're seeing now, you can easier see that you can get in, and this is part of why we were at war with Mexico at one point too, to try
mhm,
and get Texas and California. That's more strategic for us because we are making sure that the actual connection to mainland, where you can bring tanks and the such in,
right.
way easier to defend than the Florida coast for an island that right now is going to absolute pot. There's no strategic benefit to us there. But where Guam is located, you have a whole bunch of
That
surrounding
makes sense.
enemies.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
you have something within the middle of them that you can deal with. But there wasn't a whole lot there in Cuba by way of strategy, but their resources, they were rich. Now, I don't many people remember how rich Cuba was when back in the day, like just after the independence, Cuba
Hmm.
was rolling. I mean, it was the place to be. Havana was like the hub of all things exotic. You could go there, and it was the place to go when you wanted to go somewhere fancy. And when communism starts slipping in, that was it. Everything, you can't
Yeah.
even go there to do anything anymore. I want to address one thing. It's not completely off topic, but I do want people to understand something. Okay. Now, and I think we all expected this particular type of mindset to come, especially with this war where we say that the African American, I don't consider y'all African American, but I'll use the term, black people in America were a fighting force for the Navy in this particular war, and were one of the strongest reasons why we won. You'll get statements like this one. Um, Never have been. We was fighting our own people and they got y'all to kill y'all own. So I need people like this to decide. Either you're from Africa mainland or you're not from Africa mainland, and your own people are African or they're not. Um, you can't claim Filipino and every race on earth just because you like where the war led. You
Hmm.
can't be Hispanic just because you like being Spanish, and then all of a sudden now you're African, and then you're something else. Anything that benefits you, or now you Native American, and all that. You have to be everything. Oh, we as the first Vikings, and look, just stop. Just pick
Yeah.
a spot
Blackwashing
and
history.
settle down. Just pick a spot and settle down. Either
Hmm.
you were from a region or you're not from that region. All of a sudden now you are a leader in everywhere, and whenever people go there, it's because y'all are there. No, no. Spaniards are Spaniards. Anglo Saxons are Anglo Saxons. Asians are Asians. Y'all are black. Okay.
I ain't got no ties to Africa.
I'm a mix between three different races. All right. Three different nationalities are all in my blood.
I'm too.
So understand this. When US went over to the Philippines, the Philippines, okay, we didn't send black people over there to fight black Filipinos. We went over there to fight the Spaniards who were invading the Philippines and had the territory control over in the Philippines. We were fighting the Spaniards over there. They had ports, they had towers, they had ships, they had logistical locations there. The US Marines went over to the Philippines because it was strategic. They weren't expecting a war for Cuba to take place in the Philippines. That's what you call strategy. In taking care of their military might in a different location where they were not prepped for it,
Hmm.
they got rid of all the might that the Spaniards could. Now they had to redirect their troops to go defend the larger territory in the Philippines. In doing that, you leave Cuba open. And now we have a whole lot less people to fight in Cuba for that war to be won. It
That's
was
right.
brilliant strategy if you think about it. Very brilliant. And in the meantime, now you have two other locations now. This was they also signed a treaty that said This is how America did it. They would not take Cuba as a territory. They said this to the Spaniards: we won't take Cuba as a territory. They did not say we wouldn't take Guam and Puerto Rico,
Or Puerto Rico. Yeah.
but they did. So they took Guam, took Puerto Rico. They left Cuba because they said they would, but they also still wanted Cuba. Hence why in the future years we went so hard after trying to accumulate Cuba as part of our territory. Um, Many people don't see this war for what it really was. This was America who was trying to be internalized, you know, um, and became a global leader right after this war, because once they neutralized the Spaniards, America finally rose to the top of the cream crop where they began to be a world power. From that point forward, that was the defining war that created America as the military superpower. Because before that, this idea of flanking was only a battlefield scenario. It had never really been placed into effect where you go to a whole different territory to fight a war in a separate location to try and deter the people that you're fighting away from that location. It was the first. Hence why Roosevelt was seen as such a mastermind, because him and his Rough Riders were one of the top ones that did what they
And
had to do.
didn't this war also end Spanish imperialism
It did
completely? Like put a cap on it.
completely.
So
It killed them. It killed
yeah.
them. Because now you've taken away there's three strongest areas of power. Now you have, okay, so we're talking about whether or not Cuba was a strategic place, right? For the Spanish, Cuba was one of their most dominant, resource rich places in the Caribbean.
Mhm.
Puerto Rico was next. And the Philippines, they had everything they could possibly want, from rice to greens to grain. All of it was built in the Philippines. All right. Now you go after the dynasty by hitting one of their most rich locations in the Philippines for the logic of trying to get them out of Cuba, another regionally rich location. They have to now pick. Philippines are our largest. We can't afford to lose the Philippines. The Americans are coming to that location. We have to decide whether we want to vacate Cuba to save the Philippines or stay in Cuba and lose the Philippines. Their choice to try and go over to save the Philippines is what ended up giving them up the rights to Cuba, but also they end up losing both because they didn't have enough resources to cover both places. And the US only had to attack one because Cuba had their own laid out. It was one of the most brilliant moves ever conceived in military history outside of what took place in World War II. Many don't want to admit to that fact, but it did completely erase the Spaniards as a top dog in the world forum, and America slowly slipped into first place. Um, and that was it. That was it for the rest, as we say, was history. However, post Roosevelt, the presidents after that um, became, I think, at that point, completely power hungry. Because if you remember, Jay, you were saying that the Philippines didn't want Americans taking over their headship, right?
Yeah.
And since that war in the Philippines took place, um, what many don't want to admit to is that not every place that we've gone to with good intentions, because we didn't look at the Filipinos as people. We actually had a less view of them than the Spaniards did. And, and that was our problem. We went in there thinking they're little, calling them names and stuff. And then
Mhm.
the Filipinos didn't want that at all, had no intentions of dealing with that. Um, Someone said the Spanish robbed America.
What?
I don't know if I can say that, because you got to figure out who the bad guy was in all of this. I can't say it was Spain. I don't think I can look at this and say Spain was the bad guy for them to say that they robbed America. I think, if anything, America robbed Spain, because here's why I think they robbed Spain. They sold him a bag of goods. They did. They said, "Well, we won't take Puerto Rico," and then you take two of their biggest locations next to Port. Next, we won't take Cuba, but then you take the next two, Puerto Rico and Guam. I'm just saying it. It does. I don't think that America was the good guy in this one. As much as we benefited from it, I don't think we were the good guys. Maybe I might be wrong, but I don't see us as being the ones that were really doing something beneficial to the Cuban people. As you can tell, in the later years, after we didn't get what we wanted, we turned our backs on them.
Mhm.
And we claimed it, you know. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they placed Fidel there. I'm not going to lie. And I will say that I would not be surprised if they placed Fidel in order to create in a place where Cuba was no longer a good country. Is that a conspiracy theory?
Oh yeah. Do you think they probably had a hand in placing Che Guevara?
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Yep. He could have been working hand in hand with the American government.
The same way they're working now with the cartels,
Mm-hmm. Too bad he's dead.
you know? And so
Didn't
I look,
pass it.
everybody knows that if you followed any one of us anywhere, you know that we've been saying for a long time that America's hands are not clean, but from far. And when I say America, I mean America, the government, not the people. Uh, the government has no clean hands in this location we're at now, with the exception of a handful of presidents. The majority of them wanted more war, wanted more domination, world domination, and wanted a place beside the monarchies and hierarchies across the world. So
Mm-hmm.
um, um, I would not say that at all. Now, this is coming back to American history. In America, y'all might be taught that. That's what y'all might be taught. And that's fine if that's the education level that you got to. It's okay because that's where it was. In other places of the world, in other places of the world, trust and believe me, America was nowhere near on the radar of atrocious behaviors of slaves. Trust and believe me, y'all don't even come as a blip on the radar. Nobody talks about American history outside of America. No one talks
Mhm.
about American slavery outside of America. Nobody cares. Like when I say literally nobody, nobody. People like to think y'all had it bad here. You didn't have it bad here. Compared to other regions of the world, America didn't have it bad, y'all. No.
Yeah.
If the all of the oh look, all of the locations they had throughout the Caribbean, the Spanish treated slaves worse than the British ever did.
Mm.
And the Americans that were having slaves learned from the British. They didn't learn from the Spaniards. The Spaniards brought in stuff like Aztec punishment for people.
Mm. Mm.
You are not talking about lynching as the worst or a beating, cutting off your foot. We talk about skinning y'all alive. Slaves were skinned alive by the Spaniards, sawn and quartered by the Spaniards, hooked up to 4 horses and not even sawn, just pulled apart. Look, American slavery was bad, but don't ever get it twisted to think that American black people had it worse than everybody else on earth. Y'all ain't, you're not even ranked among the top 15 of people that were abused by slavery. Not even remotely in the top 15.
And some of these countries still practice it today.
Still going on.
Still going on.
Still going on.
And here we are, Black American complaining.
But
Get out of here.
outside of the US, which is why I keep telling people, poke your head outside for a minute
Mm-hmm.
and don't just relegate yourself to American history. Because whether you believe it, this is the reason why we're doing these particular topics about the wars is to help you understand that what America did and when America stepped into other locations, what they gained was not just money, but they gained other people's cultures and incorporated it here. Even if it was at a very low percentage of incorporation, they did incorporate it. Getting rid of the Spaniards only created a vacuum, which is what we do when we invade other countries. The difference is America created the vacuum that they filled themselves because of how they handled it, because they attacked it not just from war, they attacked it from a treaty standpoint. So this is the advantage that I think America has over any other superpower before it. Alexandria was war. Egypt, war. Okay, the British war. They would invade a whole lot of countries. That was their MO. And then they had their policies for local enforcement. America was one of the only, if not the only, to attack countries on both a physical and a diplomatic side. So you had zero recourse to get away from us. They were diplomatic and they could kick you behind. Like you couldn't get away.
Mm-hmm.
If they wanted you, they'd take you. Even today, even today, if they want a country, they can take it if they wanted to.
That's very true.
Okay, and they can get it legally by the world standards of legal.
Hmm.
It's nothing for them to do.
We got to
The
bring
next
up
few wars we'll
democracy.
be talking about. Wait till you see what happens when during World War One and Two.
Whew.
Who was the big dog in World War One and Two? So it's not just that we have a corrupt system by way of how we usurp other people's countries, because we have that, and false flags and all that stuff. Trust me, we understand all that. And then they also turn it on to the American people, and I get all that. But what you're not seeing is a bigger picture as to why it is that we're in the position we're in now. Um, when the government tells you they're here to help, do not believe them.
Somebody very famous said that too, not too
Yeah.
long, a couple of years ago.
Mr. Reagan himself.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Reagan himself.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get it twisted.
No, no,
Oh,
no.
trust me, that's exactly where we're going. That's exactly where we're going, Lee. That's exactly what's next. World War One is next in our discussion. And when we talk about World War One, I
Buckle
think
up.
many
Oof.
people should know lots about World War One, but maybe you don't know everything about World War One. But hopefully, the stuff we told you before um, about how the Americas built their. Now, okay, let's start here. If you are a the entirety of the world's population and countries were built on the other person beating you. Okay, and if you're not in a position to fight back, you lose.
Mhm.
Okay, so I don't think there's necessarily anything unfair in war, which is why the statement all is fair in love and war.
Mhm.
If you cannot combat it, then you probably don't deserve the post of being top dog. There are plenty of people that thought that the Romans did unfair war practices, but it got them the top spot. And if you couldn't beat the Romans, tough luck.
Mm.
Spartans, same thing. You couldn't get through their flanks, then you deserve to lose. So that's the way Hitler did it. Hitler thought, oh, you can't beat me. And then when Hitler lost, okay, another person took his place. So to say that America may be operating outside the scope, they're operating exactly how they should operate in war. There are no real good rules in war.
That's right.
If I can find a weakness, I'm going to exploit it. You were the one that left that weakness, not me. I'm just abusing it.
Mhm.
So let's just get that out the way. I understand because look, Native Americans did it too. Let's not even look at the fact that America was founded and a majority of them were white. Let's look at what Native Americans did to Native Americans. You're talking about you went to a neighboring tribe to get what they had and you killed them. And that was considered normal. And if the
Sure was.
tribe couldn't win, the tribe lost and you took their people. What's so different about that versus what America did?
That's right.
We just looked at the bad guy because of the length of time we've been doing it and how efficiently we do it. I don't see that as being bad necessarily for war. For war, we're not talking morals here. We're just talking
And I
about
think,
bites stands of
yeah, and
war.
I think people get that mixed up as like the art of engagement needs to follow the rules of war or whatever the case might be. And I know that's a military concept of, the rules of engagement, but like, I don't know, man. I mean, if you look at conflict all over, it's you need to gain the upper hand in order to become the victor, and to the victor
Mm-hmm.
goes the spoils by any means necessary.
That,
And it's not a morality issue. That's I would say that's a political idea than it is a
mm-hmm.
moral quandary. So
Yeah, which is why I don't see why people have the kind of expectation of governments based on their track record of what they do to turn around and then do something good for you. Okay, let's take for this.
Very
Like,
true.
there are a couple of presidents that would internalize America and keep them from the foreign world stage in order to fix the things here. There were about 3 or 4 before Trump that tried to do that. 2 of them died. 2 of them died trying to make America localized to the point where we were our own sovereign country. We didn't want to depend on nobody else. We deal with stuff here. We build our base and be done with people.
Mm-hmm.
Neocons and people that love war don't want that. People who want to expand territory don't want that. And so you become president and you do exactly that. Um, if we were to go into the next phase of America in order to save it, the only way we can save America, we're at that, 250-year marker where countries that are superpowers go downhill or
Yes.
implode. We're at that point now. The only way I can see America being saved from that demise is to shut off our influence overseas.
I agree.
And I mean, shut it off completely. We don't pay nobody money. We don't take no money from, we don't defend nobody. We defend ourselves. Any territory we have out there, that's the only thing we defend. And we shut down every bit of international treaties we have, done with them, and just deal with American issues and fortify our own nation first.
That's
America's
right.
closed, kind of a thing.
Just close it off. Yeah, America is shut down for a year. We ain't got nothing to do with y'all. You ain't hearing nothing from us. We cutting down everything. We don't, because we have everything we need here. We got oil, we got food, we got resources. We don't need to go outside.
That's
We
right.
are a bunker. That's the only way I could see America being saved at this point. But for the power hungry, they have to go out and get more. And the more you try to get, the more you lose. Because now the people that are in power are lining their pockets with the stuff that they say they're trying to get for America. They're actually lining themselves for them.
And again, it's biting us in the rear end right now. We've been so greedy, and when I say we, I mean government and the secret powers that are hidden behind the curtain have been so greedy. You've seen a lot of these countries that they've had their thumb on for all these years breaking away, and they're like, oh, we're not worried about America no more, and they're creating their own alliance that America's not going to be able to go against by ourselves. Not
Right.
even if we had like the Brits. I think the Brits and a couple other countries are going to have our back, but we're going to be on our own. So I agree with Marlon. Okay, we're done. We're shutting it down. We're bringing all our troops from these overseas bases.
Bring
We're
'em home.
shutting those down. We're bringing them all home. We're building these bases on our coastlines, at our borders. This is just going to be a fortified state until we get our stuff together. But again, like he said, the powers to be are too greedy and too nosy to allow that to happen.
Yep.
It's
See,
all
my
about
only my only kind of sort of pushback on this is because, like, being Korean, having Korean roots, if America shuts itself off, Korea is done. South Korea is gone. Like, there goes my motherland, home nation. But at the no, I'm
Go
saying,
ahead.
but at the same time, because if you think about it, South Korea is on the precipice of being taken over by the North, and it's going to be the North is going to be backed by China. South Korea is done if America shuts itself off.
There are tons of countries done.
That's my only.
There are tons of countries that were done.
And and I can see your point. So it would have to be an agreement with certain countries, like South Korea being one, who's on an island, who from the north they're screwed. Any other direction, pretty much, they're screwed. Countries like Germany, they're fine. Countries like Italy, they're fine. Smaller countries like Korea, and South Korea has been very good to America.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Very good, very good. So certain countries we can still have a relationship with through funding. Maybe
I wouldn't fund them at all. I just
I'm talking about
military alone.
Yeah, that's what I mean by okay.
I wouldn't even remotely give them no money because we need every resource we got.
But outside of that, everybody's in America. Everybody, and 911, that phone is off the hook. Handle it. Now, when they start coming our way, we'll take them out. And that's exactly what would happen. Something will happen in the country, and some of these superpower countries will get greedy and be like, let's go to America. And they're going to figure out that was a big freaking mistake.
Yeah.
You know?
It's
So,
it's the only way. And no one cares about Ukraine. Ukraine could suck salt for all I
yeah.
care. Anybody care about no Ukraine?
I didn't even know it existed
Yeah,
until they
just
started talking.
let them flounder. I really don't care about Ukraine. Ukraine's a corrupt
No,
country. Their people
don't.
are corrupt. Everything about Ukraine is corrupt. America is the exact same way with their people. Like about 30% of the people here are all depraved. They're all that's all they care about is what sex you're gonna have next and who what the. Look, if it were up to me, every flag flying human being that had those color flags would be displaced. I'm not even kidding you. You'd be displaced, or I would put you in a whole different community by yourself so you can reign by yourself. I'll give you California, and you all move to California and we'll just wall off California. Y'all have California. Just take it
Hmm.
back. If you
The whole
want,
West Coast.
just wipe just a nice wall. Whoop. And if you're a liberal and you want to go there, elect your own president, and the rest of us, we secede. We gone. Cut you off. You're over there. You stay there, and you could defend yourself from any attack coming from that way. We ain't helping you. If you just want that for yourself, where you can practice all the depravity you want, have at it. Live in Cali, live in Oregon, and on the mountainous side, outside of the Snoqualmie Mountain to the west side of Seattle, you can have. Inland from that, if you want a country that actually will prosper and thrive because we deal with people on an individual level and not groupthink, come over here. Kick you all out, send you all to California. I'm not even kidding. That's exactly why I'd send you. You have
Ain't
that
lying.
mindset, get rid of you.
We will
I'll just
pay
get
for
rid of
your
you.
moving costs.
Yeah.
We'll pay for everything. We'll
We'll go
get
into
your
debt
house.
for that.
Yeah, we'll buy your house. We'll move you and your family to that state, and you can live there.
Go live.
Enjoy
But
your
and
vegan
as,
lifestyles.
yeah,
Yeah.
as far as saving America, the only way we can do that right now is to internalize.
Yeah.
We have to fix what's going on here. And that means both physically, monetarily, spiritually, we got to fix everything. Because if we don't do that, we're just going to implode just like Sodom and Gomorrah, man. God will either wipe us out before the time comes for the end of the world, or we'll end up killing ourselves. We have, and this is a part of why I think the neocons don't want someone like Trump, whether they believe he's a good guy or not.
Mhm.
They don't want him in there because he does not want to be on the world stage like that. He sees the problems within America. Now, past that point, I'm not calling Trump a morally sound human being. I'm not looking at his morally sound human being side
Right.
because I'm not considering my spiritual leader. But as far as America goes on a business aspect, he has the only good mindset about America right now. Like it or not, that's the way it is. His mindset about America makes sense. If you're trying to save America, mind you, that's if you're trying to save America.
Right.
And you'll see a lot further when we deal with the World War I and II situation. You'll see how close we are to 3, 1, and then you'll see how far away from 3 he was trying to take us.
Yep.
Mm.
And a
Uh,
lot of people, they don't want America to succeed, because you get a lot of these people, not a lot, there's a certain percentage of Americans that see America at fault for everything that
Everything.
happens in the world. So a lot of them actually want to see America meet their demise.
Mhm.
And it'll make them happy to see that. But there's real Americans out there that understand, like myself, Marlon, Jay Lee, and other American Savage Patriots, that understand that we have our faults, and we recognize our faults. But I don't want to see our country fail either.
Mhm.
Right.
Because of the faults.
Yeah, because of the
Because they're
fault.
rectifiable.
Yeah.
They're very rectifiable. Even if that means restitution payments to people that we've done. I
Mhm.
mean, the whole reparations thing,
No.
I would much rather see that happen by a different means. But I guarantee what will happen if we internalize our affairs. You won't even be asking about reparations because you'll see your communities change.
Mhm.
You won't even ask about it. Because once you actually have the resources funneled out the way they're supposed to be, run the way the Constitution and American law is actually supposed to be implemented, man, you ain't gonna see the kind of problems that we have now. You won't see them then.
Yep.
But we're not willing to make that sacrifice, like not yet.
No.
And we'll continue to have wars, especially in like clowns like the wet potato we got now. Um, but hopefully Monday when we tackle World War I, and then Wednesday we'll tackle World War II. You guys will have a better understanding of the way America has been operating, or at least America, the government, has been operating versus what the people have wanted and the kinds of ways. And we'll get into how they treat the soldiers too,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that's very important. How they, because the soldiers today might as well be POWs, bro. I'm telling you now, the kinds of things, and bro will know most about that, because what U.S. soldiers come back with, or without rather,
It's
is
very true.
is crazy to me that they're allowed to live, even be home. I don't know even how even one vet is homeless.
But
I
they
I
are.
don't even know how even one vet is homeless. I don't even know how that happens.
And the fact that there's talks rumbling about them they're trying to take our benefits. I mean, even though it's not, people are fighting not to get it passed. They're trying to help the government save money. Let's take the vets benefits. It's crazy. So nowadays it's
Um,
hard to
Insane.
see what anybody would serve their country,
yeah.
but
The Vietnam War was after both of those, so it's still to come.
hmm
55, I think, was Vietnam, and 45 was when two was happening. So it's to come, but it's after.
American
Um,
involvement for two was
yeah,
45.
yeah.
So
So, um, yeah, yeah. So we will tackle all of them. Um, I want to try and tackle all of the new ones in one fell swoop, from the Afghan to the Iraq, Desert Storm, all of them, Kuwait, in one fell swoop, because all of them had one central theme, and that was oil.
yes.
hmm.
And I think we just call them the oil wars.
We had to
I,
change the name, the oil.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a good
yeah.
one.
I think we
Yeah.
just call them the oil wars, and
Okay.
group them all into one, because that was the bane of our existence, was trying to fight for the resource called oil.
The blood of the earth.
Hmm.
So you're saying from our involvement with Desert Storm up until
Now,
uh now. Okay.
yeah,
All right.
now,
So it's been a 20 some odd year long war that we've
yeah,
been a part of.
yeah,
All right.
Afghan, not so much oil. I think it's more opium, like we discussed the other day. So
yeah.
that's a
And
huge market.
what's that other thing? The chips, that
The,
resource that they have out there to make batteries,
the lithium.
Lithium.
lithium. Yeah,
Hmm
That's
lithium.
Afghanistan.
Afghanistan got lots of
Yes.
lithium.
Uh,
Really? I
Cat.
Yeah.
thought that was
I
a.
served in the army.
I thought that was an African thing.
No,
But
lithium's all over the
yeah,
place.
but Afghanistan's got some
Yeah,
lithium rich. Yeah. Oh
yeah.
yeah.
The more you know.
Lithium is all over the place. But hey, again, before we get into the world wars, one and two, mainly two, make sure you guys watch. Ding, ding, ding.
Everything's a poor man's trouble.
Everything is a rich man's trick. So you can kind of get an idea of where we're going with that. Just like Marlon said before, we're not anti-Americans here. We're truth speakers. We call a spade a spade.
Exactly. Both sides get it.
That's
Both
right.
sides get these hands. Okay, both sides, left, right, and center, gonna get these hands. If you're wrong, you're wrong.
Yep.
You know, if you're wrong, like both Bushes were Republican. We hate both of them. Okay,
Yeah.
That's right.
just so you know, they were both Republicans. Ain't nobody like them, like at all. Nobody. So don't get it twisted. There are plenty of Republicans that we don't like at all.
That's true.
Okay, and I wish they would just fall off the face of the earth and be done with. I don't want anything to do with them, because they're all vile, evil people. But we'll talk about those come Monday, with World War I, on Wednesday, World War II, and then I think we'll just jump straight into Vietnam on Friday, and then the following Monday we'll finish off with the oil wars.
Well,
And if it
don't we have
happens
to
to
do?
go,
Don't we have to do Korea and then Vietnam?
we do. Do we want to mix those together? No, we don't, because they're very vital. They're very
Korea.
vital in and of
Yeah.
themselves.
Because one of them seemed ideological. Korean War. Well, both of them
Uh-huh.
were very ideological.
Very, yeah.
So
Well, you better get
Let's
your
think
game
about
face
that
on
one.
for Korea.
Let's think about that one.
um,
I'll look into both
Right.
and see exactly what the outcome was, and we'll figure it out. Um, Either way, we
World War
got
One.
one and two to deal with first, and then by
Yep.
Friday we should have our ducks in a row to figure out which one we're gonna do. Then
Okay.
either combine the two, or uh, individualize them, and then do Wednesday and Friday to cover the oil wars. We can do Oil Wars 1 and 2 because that's a massive amount of time that they covered. So please, guys, thank you for getting us to the monetization process, and hopefully YouTube will do their job and give it to us, because what we do is different than any other political podcast. We don't just go at things from what the surface value is. We go at things from what is real and what is factual, what is historical. I'll try and, well, I think we all will try and get a video recorded about this Tennessee lawmakers getting expelled thing too. That's pretty funny.
Oh yeah,
it's very hilarious.
Hey, real quick, you know what annoyed me was the way that guy was talking.
Oh gosh, do you think he's Martin Luther King?
Yeah, he was like, "Johnny," I don't even know what his accent was. I was just like,
my gosh,
it was sad. It was sad.
This is annoying.
So if I can find a clip of it, I'll have you guys record a reaction to it, and then we'll put up a video this weekend.
Yeah,
that sounds good. I'm down.
I think that's what we'll end up doing. Because that's too much. That is too much for me. In any case, love you guys. We'll catch up you on Monday when we come back with World War I. Until then, this is the Savage Patriots signing out.
Like, share, comment, subscribe.